Hello, people of the internet, it's Amanda, and for today's video, initially I want this to just be a reaction video to ARAFES 2020, but then I figured just looking back at that day on November 3rd, 2020, I figured that reacting to just the event alone would not suffice because I have so many thoughts about it, and I've only seen part 2, which is the one for general viewing. But even so many things happened on that day that made me think about just online concerts in general, its nature, and just how Arashi is putting up this particular standard, not for anyone else, but basically just to beat their own standard or some things that they have already done in the past. And this just turned into, planning out for that kind of video, if you get what I mean. So, obviously, ARAFES would be at the center of the discussion for this video, but I will also be touching base on a couple of things or a couple of thoughts that occurred to me during the event day itself, and more of the reasons on that why later on. But before that, I just want to give a massive shout out to a couple of people. Number one, to Jayan, who's very, very kind and who helped me out so that I was able to watch the part 2 of ARAFES 2020. It was such an unplanned thing, but she really helped me out on that day, and I was able to sort of enjoy and join the craziness that happened because of her. So thank you so much, Jayan, for helping me out during that day. There's also Adet, who I've been chatting with prior to whatever this has been happening in the event. So it's a full day event. There's a pre-program, a part 1 and a part 2. And so I was chatting with Adet in between some of the things, and just in general, actually, we've been chatting for quite some time now and just sharing a lot of thoughts about, Johnny's in general, and then with ARASHI and stuff. So I know I just feel like giving a massive shout out to her as well for this particular video. Another one is for Isa. So she made a really, really good reaction video to ARAFES 2020. I'll be linking her video down in the description below. I hope that you check it out because it's really filled with roller coaster of emotions, feels, and just a lot of thoughts about even the set list and everything like that. So hers is a lot more detailed than this video regarding the event itself. So she's seen part 1 and part 2. So if you want to know what went in the set list for both shows and all of the other thoughts about, the song choices that went into the voting and everything like that. So she has a lot of good insights about that and very, very fun to just watch. So please check out her video as well. And then lastly to Ara, who, I don't know why, but while I was making my notes for this particular video and thinking of the people that I want to thank, I thought of Ara as well because she was watching the entire event since it started up until it ended, and that was in between her trying to juggle it with schoolwork. So I just want to say kudos to the effort. Absolutely proud of her for surviving that particular day because it was really, really something. So there, and obviously to the other people that I've interacted on Twitter for that particular day, it whiplashed me again back to King and Prince land, where basically we are just collectively scream tweeting while things are happening, and I would be diving more into that later on as well when I talk about the online concert experience and how it is really like and all of these things. So yeah, now before we start, so just a couple of fast facts. So ARAFES is basically a massive thing for Arashians in general because these are just not ordinary concerts. They're held in arenas or domes. This is held in Kokuritsu, which is the national stadium of Japan. For research, Kokuritsu is among the top 5 largest stadiums in Asia at the moment and is also part of the top 50 biggest stadiums all over the world. So just imagine that scale. Its current capacity after all the repairs and stuff. I think a couple of years ago it was just around 68,000, and now it can host up to 80,000 people in attendance. And Arashi is also one of the very few groups or artists that were able to light up the Olympic torch, given that they performed in this particular venue. So there's also that. This event was supposed to be held last May, but given Miss Rona, so they had to like scratch it off. And according to the latest episode of Voyage, a lot of people are really suggesting that they just cancel it out, mainly because of, you know, the pandemic and how is it going to be. And given how this is unprecedented, not just for Japan, but basically all over the world, given, you know, how everything was put to a standstill. So how exactly would this be? But Arashi, being Arashi, really pushed through with it and really wanted to make this plan into fruition, especially with the hiatus happening at the end of the year. And so we come to this. Now, what's interesting is, again, going back to what I was saying earlier, I'll be posting the schedule of how the day went over here, an archive delivery of the performances. So for those who have bought tickets, they can rewatch it again in the archive delivery depending on the schedule that they pick. And then it also gives the people second chance to check out the shows because you can buy tickets once again. So I'll be putting a link to that down in the description as well in case you're curious. But the thing with this is that even if I wasn't able to watch the events from the pre-program to part 1, for those who are thinking that online concert experiences are nothing more than just, I don't know, very similar to watching something on YouTube or a DVD of a concert or anything like that, I'm telling you that the experience is absolutely different, because it's happening to everyone live. In a way, like it is a collective experience that even if you're experiencing it at home individually, whether you're watching it with someone else or with friends or whatever, you also get to connect to fellow fans all over the world with you, who are co-reacting with you. And it's a very dynamic thing because you get to exchange as quickly as that, and you get to express your thoughts as quickly as that and as loudly as that, which is something that even if in physical concerts you can't exactly do. Like, you can't interact with every single person who is in the arena or the dome or the stadium with you. But here on the internet, I'm not saying that it's the same thing, but you are able to see the reactions of people real time based on, I don't know, hashtags or people on their timeline or anything like that. And it becomes this very, very unique experience. And I'm not just talking about ARAFES in general, but, you know, just my experience with just the past online concerts I've also seen this year. And another interesting thing about this is, even if, you know, for people who are not watching it, there's a sense of you're still able to participate in it just by seeing how other people are reacting to it. I mean, I was just like messing around during that day because I Promise for King and Prince was released as well. Like the CD jackets, they were released during that same day. So that was in my headspace. And then I was also checking out, you know, what was happening in ARAFES during that day as well. And with people reacting to it bit by bit, very, very timely, it's like you're being a part of this entire conversation and don't necessarily have to be there as well or just watching it with them, but seeing their reactions, it's very alive and it reaches you as well as a fellow fan. And so it's the same thing as not just for ARAFES, but for the rest of the other Johnny's concerts that's been happening in the past, where I've seen, like during the Sexy Zone concert, the past 3 days, I've been seeing people reacting to it and just, you know, sharing their thoughts about it. And it feels like I was able to like experience a part of it as well, even if I didn't watch that. So there's this epiphany that this is an experience that is really different and unique. And again, with the pandemic, like we honestly, like if we're being realistic about this, it's still kind of like uncertain in a way as to where we're headed. Current health situation, like if they're going to start implementing this as a normal thing, like online concerts, there is something that's still very unique about it. And for people who don't understand what it is about, you know, why would you pay for an online concert or anything like that, who couldn't get the dynamic of that, this is where Arashi or the Arashi experience comes in, because this online concert is like what they did for ARAFES 2020 is something that it couldn't exactly achieve with a live audience. Like they really stepped it up and made it their own, and it's like a massive middle finger to what the pandemic did to their plans for this year, in my opinion, because part two was such a visual feast. It is absolutely beautiful, crisp, well made. How it was produced was so amazing, and I've heard a couple of people who said that, you know, part one, it's really more for like the feels of like fans who's been with Arashi for the longest time, and you know, it's pouring out all these like feelings and songs, and just the nostalgia of it, you know, performing songs that haven't been performed in a while, or songs that really mean so much to the fandom or anything like that. For example, part one had 5x10 and then Love So Sweet. There's also Niji, so Shake Shake, and all these kind of like songs in general. And like, it's more of like, you know, if there are like inside jokes or inside feels within the fans, that's part one for you. And then part two is really more of like, this is Arashi. Not to like give out a pun regarding their new album, but that's what part two felt like. This is a presentation of who they are now as artists. It started, like the set list started with 5x20, which I feel like is such a crazy ass move, because I mean, imagine starting that out with 5x20 feelings, and then they follow it up with Happiness. It's just like, what is up with the groups that I stan and just leading me up with roller coasters of emotion? I don't understand it. Because, you know, we were just starting out with like 5x20 and all these feels about, you know, what the song is about, and just the feelings of how they're trying to like, it's their love letter to their fans for the past 21 years that they've been in the industry, and just the messaging that went into it. And then Happiness sort of like follows, and I was like, okay, I see what you're doing. Okay. And then obviously, like, again, as expected with Arashi, like the visual feast is obviously there, but I didn't expect that visual, like that aesthetic attack before Sugar. So for those who have seen the concert, you would absolutely know what I'm talking about. That is something that it couldn't achieve with a live audience. I feel like it can be in terms of effects and everything like that, like very similar to how 5x20, the concert, was such a visual feast. But this one, like the way that they treated this with the CGI and everything, an augmented reality kind of thing that happened, that particular, like starting from that sequence prior to Sugar, that, you know, it's something that, you know, you when, if people ask you, why do you pay for an online concert, that is a valid answer. Like they really stepped it up in that alone. It's breathtaking, it's amazing, and it's understandable why this had to be pre-recorded, because I heard a couple of people sort of like complaining that it shouldn't be pre-recorded. It should be very similar to like the past concerts where it's actually like happening live and everything like that. But seeing how part two was like, and how that was made, like all the post-production things that went into that entire thing, I felt like, okay, so this is why they had to do that, because of this, because of how beautiful they had to put this into, so that the online concert experience is like the essence of being in Kokuritsu and performing in this large stadium is to be maximized, and to put a new standard, not for anyone else, but for themselves, and stepping it up from the things that they've done before, because Rona stepped on their plan, so might as well just push it to the level that they can push it to. So, and that's Arashi for you. That's Matsumoto Jun's brain for you, I guess. Enough. Like in the summer was super interesting because they transformed Kokuritsu into a beach. Like that CGI was mind-blowing to me. It was so beautiful. And I love that song. I just absolutely adore that song for some reason. And it really delivers this like new sound thing with Arashi, you know, really stepping in. And I feel like the main reason why I like I'm not sure if there are like mixed feelings about this or anything like that, but I like their new songs as well in a way. Of course, there are classics, but you know, their new songs, it's kind of like it's an experience that you got to experience with them in the now, if you get what I mean. Because these are the songs that they released and open to the public for us to experience in a way that's very welcoming. I mean, fans, longtime fans of just the J-pop industry or Johnny's in general would get what I'm trying to imply here. But you know, that thing, like that thing of experiencing this in a manner that is very accessible and available. I think that's why their newer songs sort of like resonate with me as well, along with my other favorites. And then the new Japan Philharmonic Orchestra comes in, and I'm such a sucker for like live music. I mean, technically it's not live, but you know, the music that still sounds like instruments. Like, I'm not particularly a fan of like very techno sounding songs, if you get what I mean. So I like hearing the instruments whenever I'm listening to a track or anything like that. And for them to put in an orchestra, again, very similar to 5x20, like how they did there, but for this one to back up this amazing transition of Monster, Season, and Truth. Truth is my jam, by the way. I think I talked about this in 5x20, but Truth is just my jam. And so for them to perform it, and then there's a different riff or different sound to just orchestra music, and to combine that with the production, with the pyros and everything like that, like, it's so beautiful. And then suddenly that entire energy transitions into Kite. Now, Kite is a song that I absolutely love. It's one of their newer singles, and the messaging of that, I'm such a sucker for like medium ballad songs, and so especially when the message is very inspiring and very motivational, and there's a sense of like sentimentality to it, like, so Kite, like the transition of the energy, and again, here we go again with how smart the set list is, like, because it sends you feels and sort of like helps you recuperate a bit with some of the happier tunes or more energetic ones, and then they just dive right into the emotions again right away. So that in itself, like, very, very interesting as to how it transitions from there. And then after that, so it's kind of interesting because the time that has passed through the concert, again, it definitely didn't feel like, you know, you just enjoyed the entire thing and then the next thing it was already over. And I feel like that experience in itself, you know, you would know that something is good if it makes you feel like so many things, and then that feeling stays with you even after it's over. And that's what ARAFES 2020 is like. And again, that doesn't just go with the concert proper itself that I've personally experienced, but that entire day itself was just brimming with feels. I saw a couple of people who weren't able to like catch it because of certain reasons, but they did their own uchiwas for it, very personalized ones, who, I don't know, just celebrated it with cup sleeve events or anything like that. And that idea of just joining into the situation or like helping people out to experience it in a way that while you're experiencing it, or just having that shared experience with someone and talking about it in a collective manner, even if you're in your individual homes. And again, the standard that ARASHI put out when they said online concert, just because it's an online concert, it doesn't have to be mediocre. Like, that's the message that putting out there, setting up a standard for themselves and beating the ones that they've done before. And it's not for anyone else. It's just the way that ARASHI does things. And I feel like I absolutely want their kohais to learn from this. You know, again, I've said this in my previous video in 5x20, but you don't necessarily have to like want to be the next ARASHI or anything like that, because ARASHI is ARASHI. But the principles, the camaraderie, professionalism, and the way that they really pour themselves into the production so that it feels like Arashi and not something that is planned by someone else for them. I feel like that's the very important thing that I want their kohais to learn, you know, because I feel like that's very important, is having that personal touch, because you can't deliver something this brilliant if you feel so detached from it, in my opinion. And the only reason why it became like this is because, number one, the feelings that were conveyed, it's from Arashi, like it's them. And then there's also big brain Matsujun, who is really into, you know, the thing. And another thing that I want to point out is Jun has always been open about talking about, you know, taking inspiration from other artists, not just in Japan, but like him taking notes during a Backstreet Boys concert, a Coldplay concert, learning from someone else, and not necessarily copying it, but really acknowledging that it is inspired by someone else and you try to make it your own. I feel like that is something that I want their kohais to learn from Arashi. And it's you know, it's setting up it's basing your standards from what you see and what you admire, and then making it into your own to beat your own standards or something that you've done in the past. I feel like that's what I captured from this entire experience. And the thing is, again, it's a collective experience that seems very individualistic, because, you know, how fun would it be like just watching a concert in your room or anything like that? But it is a shared experience. It's an undeniable shared experience, and Arashi delivered. Arashi delivered, exceeded expectations with ARAFES 2020. And I don't know, like, if people ask, like, why do you watch online concerts? Why do you pay for online concerts? This is the reason why. This is the level of standard. And I hope that it changes the perspective of not just artists who are trying to conduct things, who would conduct these things in a way, but also the audience and what they should expect when it comes to these things. So it's setting up, you know, standards for each and every one of us individually, and at the same time collectively as audiences, and just Arashi being Arashi, setting expectations for themselves. And yeah, I think that's what makes this entire thing beautiful and brilliant. And yeah, so with that said, I feel like so many things just happened. With that said, check out Isa's video. Again, I'll be putting a link to that down in the description. And tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, where you're, you know, where's your headspace at? Are you watching it again or anything like that? Thoughts. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to my channel and you would want to hear more from me, please subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be seeing you again soon in a new one.